Welcome back. It's so incredibly good to have you sitting here with us again.
It really is. We have a lot to cover today.
Yeah, I hope you are comfortably settled because the material we are plunging into today explores, well, frankly, one of the most harrowing, adrenaline-fueled, and just terrifying nights we have ever analyzed in our historical reconstruction of this timeline. Welcome back to our deep dive of the scales of Phandelver.
Today, our mission is to explore a truly near-fatal night for our party of adventurers.
Oh, absolutely. We are looking at a devastating, chaotic encounter with the apex predator of the Sword Coast frontier. I mean, the white dragon itself, Cryovain.
And if surviving a dragon wasn't enough, we are also going to dissect the claustrophobic horrors lurking deep inside the ancient, crumbling ruins of Old Owlwell.
Yeah, the sheer survival instinct on display here is something we really need to unpack.
It truly is a remarkable sequence of events, and while the action is undeniably intense, what we are really exploring together today are three profound underlying themes that dictate the future of this entire region. First, we will examine the raw, primal struggle for survival against an overwhelming ancient danger and the tactical ingenuity required to escape it. Second, we must analyze the heavy, lingering emotional consequences of a truly heartbreaking sacrifice made by Plep Jalep earlier in the evening.
That part just breaks me.
It is deeply tragic. And third, we will look at the chilling, growing influence of Cryovain itself. Because this dragon is not merely a beast hunting for its next meal, we're going to see how it is actively reshaping the entire ecosystem of the region.
Creating a geopolitical ripple effect of displacement and terror.
Precisely.
The stakes are escalating so rapidly that it almost feels like the ground is crumbling beneath their feet. So let's set the parameters for this deep dive. We are going to dissect the events of what historians refer to as Session 21 of this saga.
Yes.
Our goal is to extract the critical lore, analyze the split-second character decisions, and uncover the hidden secrets that ultimately dictate the fate of Phandelver. Are you ready? Because we need to drop right back into the immediate aftermath of a brutal, venomous battle.
We do. When we last left the narrative, the party had just survived a grueling clash with a horde of giant spiders. And we need to establish their physical and mental state to truly understand the decisions they make next.
They are profoundly exhausted.
Exactly. Their bodies are battered, their magical and physical reserves are entirely depleted, and their wounds have only been hastily tended. They are desperately seeking a brief respite, making camp in the encroaching darkness of the wilderness.
I want you to really picture the reality of their situation for a second. You are sitting around a meager, sputtering campfire. Your muscles are screaming in agony. Your armor is dented and covered in highly acidic venom and spider ichor, which burns the eyes and the lungs.
A terrible environment.
The adrenaline that kept you alive for the last hour is crashing hard. It leaves that deep, bone-weary exhaustion where your hands just won't stop shaking.
They huddle together, dividing the watch rotations, just trying to survive the night.
But before anyone can even close their eyes, the quiet of the camp is broken by a deeply emotional confession. And this is where things get incredibly complicated.
Yes, the campfire conversation. This is where the physical exhaustion of the battle meets the severe psychological exhaustion of the journey.
Yeah.
To understand the gravity of this moment, we have to look closely at the artifact Plep Jalep carries, that magical ring.
Right.
Earlier, during the absolute chaos of the spider fight, Plep Jalep experienced a profound magical disturbance. He revealed to the group that his magical ring vibrated intensely. Now, this wasn't just a physical sensation. This was a distress signal from the cognitive realm within the ring.
Wait, let's pause there for a second because we throw terms like cognitive realm around and I want to make sure we are all on the same page. When we say cognitive realm, we aren't talking about a feeling or a memory, right? We are talking about a literal, tangible space.
That is a crucial distinction.
Yeah.
Yes. Imagine the ring is not just a piece of jewelry, but a physical doorway to a pocket dimension. It is essentially a mental archive, a sanctuary built of pure consciousness where the spirit of his ancient druidic ancestor is literally stored and preserved.
Wow.
It is a living, thinking archive of his bloodline.
And during the battle, he had reached his transformed magical arm directly into that cognitive plane. He wasn't looking for his ancestor, though.
No, he wasn't.
He was searching for Russell, the asthmatic orange tabby cat the party had lost. And while he was searching the cognitive space for this cat, he felt the presence of this ancient relative.
But then the danger outside spiked.
Yeah, the pressure mounted during the battle with the spiders, and the cognitive realm itself became unstable. Julep had to make a split-second agonizing choice about who to pull back from the brink. Who does he save from the collapsing dangers within the ring's cognitive realm?
He chose the cat.
It's wild.
He chose to pull Russell to safety, leaving the spirit of his own ancestor exposed to the instability of that realm. The tragedy and the emotional toll of that decision are immense. And frankly, a bit difficult to fully comprehend without looking at turtle psychology.
I have to be honest, from a purely strategic standpoint, isn't that incredibly reckless? Why would a turtle, whose entire culture is built on ancestral memory and the passing down of ancient druidic wisdom, throw that away for a mundane pet?
It seems entirely reckless on the surface. You are right. Turtles are a deeply historical people. They carry the weight of a stolen past and a shattered enclave. The preservation of their lineage is often their highest calling.
Right, so why a cat?
Well, if we look at Plep's recent traumas, a different picture emerges. He has been carrying the immense, crushing burden of his people's history. He is surrounded by death and ancient, abstract magic.
Yeah, it's a lot for anyone.
Russell, the cat, represents something profoundly different. Russell is a fragile, entirely mundane, present-tense companion. Choosing the cat was a desperate grasp for something warm, living, and immediate. It is a rejection of the heavy, ghostly past in favor of a fragile, breathing present.
He let his ancestor face the unknown, possibly fading away into the ether entirely, just to ensure this little asthmatic cat survived the day. When you frame it like that, the guilt he must be feeling sitting by that campfire is staggering.
It is a heavy burden.
It's such a raw, vulnerable admission to make to the group. And you can see how it immediately impacts the rest of the party. I was particularly struck by Imogen's reaction.
Indeed. Imogen, the red dragonborn sorcerer, provides a fascinating contrast here. Historically, she has maintained a rather harsh, pragmatic attitude toward Russell.
Very harsh.
From a draconic cultural perspective, a fragile, wheezing feline in a war zone is a massive liability. Dragonborn society often values strength, utility, and self-reliance.
Exactly. To a dragonborn, if a creature can't survive on its own, it is a weakness to the clan. She has made her disdain for the cat's presence quite clear in the past.
But hearing the sheer agony in Plep's voice changes the dynamic entirely. She understands the concept of permanent sacrifice. When she realizes the magnitude of what Pleptrip traded away for this small creature, her draconic pragmatism softens. We see a remarkable moment of empathy from her. It isn't necessarily that she suddenly loves the cat, but she gains a quiet, profound understanding of the burden Pleplep has chosen to carry.
It's a beautiful, fleeting moment of genuine party bonding. They are sitting there in the dirt, surrounded by the rotting corpses of giant spiders, acknowledging the terrible sacrifices they were making for each other, and for the creatures they've sworn to protect.
It grounds them.
It reminds you, and it reminds them, why they are enduring this nightmare in the first place.
But
as beautiful as that moment of connection is, the wilderness of the Sword Coast rarely lets anyone rest for long.
no, it does not.
They settle into their watch rotations, and then the atmosphere fundamentally changes.
We move to Turin's watch. It is approximately 3 hours into their rest, the absolute dead of night. And the shift in the environment is not gradual. It is violently abrupt.
Violent is the right word.
Imagine sitting there, keeping watch, focusing on the embers of the fire, when every single ambient sound in the forest simply ceases. The crickets, the wind in the trees, the shifting of the earth, complete, absolute silence.
It is the silence of the grave. It's that instinctual terror where your brain tells you something is deeply wrong before you can even identify what it is. And then the temperature plummets.
Rapidly.
We are not talking about a chilly autumn breeze rolling in. We are talking about an instantaneous drop to sub-zero temperatures. Frost literally blooms across their wool blankets in a matter of seconds. You can physically see the moisture in the air crystallizing into ice.
This is an incredibly important detail from an ecological and magical standpoint. What Turin is experiencing is a predatory aura.
Right.
A true dragon, particularly an ancient or incredibly powerful one, doesn't just exist within an environment. It actively alters the localized weather patterns around it. This extreme biological manifestation of cold precedes the arrival of an apex predator. It is nature holding its breath.
And then, the silence is broken by the snap of massive leathery wings. A creature the size of a house slams into the earth just outside the perimeter of their camp.
The sheer physical impact of that landing would be terrifying.
The imagery of this moment is just unparalleled. Pale blue eyes ignite in the darkness, glowing 12 feet off the ground. It is Cryovain, The white dragon.
Yes.
It exhales a cloud of glittering, diamond-like ice that sweeps over the camp, and the blood of the dead giant spiders instantly freezes solid. The sheer scale of the beast, the overwhelming, suffocating power of its physical presence, it's paralyzing.
And this terrifying arrival connects directly back to the historical lore we discussed previously. Do you remember the prophecy given by the Banshee, Agatha, in the ruined town of Conyberry?
Oh, absolutely.
She warned the party about the coming of the beast of winter. She spoke of a blizzard of ice and death that threatened to choke the very life from the land.
But when a ghost tells you a prophecy, you usually assume it's metaphorical. You assume she means a harsh winter is coming, or maybe a political freeze.
Precisely. Prophecies are notoriously slippery. But here, we see the literal embodiment of her warning touching down before them. This is not a myth. This is the beast of winter, in the flesh, claiming the territory.
And it is hungry. But what strikes me about this encounter is that Cryovain doesn't just immediately scorch the earth and eat them.
Which is unusual for a white dragon.
Exactly. White dragons are notoriously the most feral and brutal of the chromatic dragons, driven largely by primal hunting instincts. But there is a sadistic, cruel intelligence on display here.
Very much so.
The dragon looks down at these exhausted, terrified adventurers, grins with these translucent, razor-sharp teeth, and speaks in a grinding, stone-like voice. It simply says, "Run, little mice."
A horrifying taunt. It is a psychological tactic designed to induce panic, to flush the prey from their defensive positions. And it is immediately followed by a deafening roar that jolts every sleeping member of the party entirely awake.
There is no time to strategize. There was no time to don armor properly, to cast protective wards, or to organize a fighting formation. This is pure, unadulterated panic. The survival instinct takes over completely.
You grab whatever weapons and gear you can physically reach, and you just sprint into the darkness.
They are running toward the only shelter they know is nearby, the ruined tower of Old Owl Well that they had spotted earlier in the day. It is a desperate, frantic chase through the freezing night.
And Cryovain revels in the hunt. The dragon leaps ahead of them, using its massive physical strength to shatter the landscape. It rains down heavy boulders and debris to batter the fleeing party, treating them like playthings.
It's just playing with them.
Then it unleashes its breath weapon, a treacherous straight line of absolute zero ice right across their path, deliberately cutting them off from the tower door.
The ground becomes a slick, deadly hazard. We see members of the party desperately trying to slide across the ice, while others lose their footing and crash hard onto the freezing earth. The cold is so intense it burns their skin like fire.
The environmental hazards alone are nearly lethal.
Cryovain then lands directly between Imogen and the entrance to the tower. The dragon spreads its wings, and they are so impossibly wide that they block out the moonlight entirely. Imogen is trapped in the shadow of the beast.
This is where we witness the extraordinary synergy and quick thinking of the group under extreme, near-fatal duress. Plep Gillep, drawing on his deep druidic connection to the earth, desperately raises a physical barrier of soil and rock to shield them from the dragon's gaze.
But it's barely enough.
No, because the dragon's maw begins to glow with that deadly, blinding blue light, preparing another breath of concentrated ice. Imogen is seconds away from being frozen solid.
It is the ultimate cliffhanger moment right in the middle of the action. You are holding your breath reading the accounts of this night.
Yeah.
But from inside the tower, Valindra, the cleric of Talos, calls out.
A desperate plea to her deity.
She channels her divine magic, sending a surge of healing energy that reaches Imogen just in time to brace her physical form for the impact. But let's be real, a little bit of healing magic isn't going to stop a dragon's breath weapon. That's when Plep Gillep does something that I still can barely wrap my head around.
Yes, the application of transmutation magic here is truly astounding and frankly incredibly risky. Plep Gillep utilizes a powerful spell to temporarily alter the physical dimensions of the dragon.
He shrinks it.
He targets this colossal, house-sized apex predator and forces its biology to shrink down to the size of a human.
Stop. We need to talk about the mechanics of this because it is wild. Dragons are ancient, inherently magical creatures. They usually possess an incredible natural resistance to having their physical forms altered by outside magic.
Yeah.
How does a battered turtle druid pull off a transmutation of that magnitude?
It is a question of sheer, desperate willpower overcoming the dragon's natural magical resistance for a microscopic window of time. The spell doesn't change the dragon's mass or power permanently. It creates a temporary, violent disruption in its physical state.
It's a gamble.
It is a brilliant, highly unconventional tactic. The goal wasn't to defeat the dragon, that would be impossible, The goal was to induce a split second of tactical latency.
And it works beautifully. Imagine this terrifying, majestic beast of winter preparing to unleash absolute devastation, suddenly shrinking down to the height of a tall man. Cryovain is entirely confused.
Completely disoriented.
The dragon looks around, utterly disoriented by the sudden shift in perspective, gravity, and mass. The breath weapon stutters.
Confused and deeply annoyed by the sudden indignity of the magic, the human-sized Cryovain beats its wings and flies upward into the dark sky, seeking to distance itself from the source of the spell and regain its bearings before the magic wears off.
And that upward flight, that momentary confusion, buys Imogen the exact fraction of a second she needs. She dashes across the remaining distance of the ice, throws herself inside the stone tower, and the party violently slams the heavy wooden doors shut, throwing the iron bars across them.
A very narrow escape.
They are inside. They survived the beast of winter.
Out of the frying pan, as the old saying goes, they have escaped the freezing, expansive terror of the open sky, but they have locked themselves inside a very ancient, very dark ruin. The old Owl Well Tower is not a sanctuary. Historically, it is a tomb.
That's a chilling thought.
The atmosphere shifts immediately from the icy dread of the dragon to a suffocating, claustrophobic terror.
You can just feel the ancient stone walls closing in on them. They are panting, their breath pluming in the cold air that seeped in with them, leaning against the heavy doors, listening for the dragon outside. But the relief doesn't last for more than a heartbeat.
It never does for this group.
Because the floor of the tower isn't solid stone. It opens up into a dark, yawning excavation pit. And from that pit comes the unmistakable sounds of movement. Shuffling, the scraping of bone on stone.
The ruins of Old Owl Well have a dark and complex history, heavily steeped in ancient magic, which we will touch on shortly. But for now, it shouldn't be surprising that the dead do not rest easily in a place like this. As the party attempts to catch their breath, the excavation pit erupts. A horde of undead horrors, awakened by the chaotic commotion of the dragon attack and the sudden warm scent of the living, begins to claw its way up from the darkness.
It is an absolute nightmare scenario. They're trapped in this cramped, circular stone room. The door behind them is barred against a white dragon, and the floor in front of them is spewing out zombies. It is a brutal, close-quarters brawl.
With zero visibility.
There's no room to maneuver, no space to retreat or cast wide-area spells safely. It is shield to shield, blade to bone, in the pitch black.
This environment demands a complete shift in their survival tactics. Against the dragon, evasion and disruption were the only options. Here, in the confined, unyielding space of the tower, it is about holding the line and systematically dismantling the threat before they are overrun.
Exactly.
And in the midst of this chaotic, desperate struggle, we must highlight the ingenuity of Ohio Jim.
Ohio Jim, the dwarf rogue. He pulls off one of the most nerve-wracking maneuvers I have ever heard of in a combat scenario.
It is quite a feat.
While the rest of the party is physically holding back the immediate wave of the undead at the edge of the pit, they realize they are fighting blind. They need to know what else is coming up from that hole. How deep does it go? Is there a necromancer down there? Ohio Jim doesn't just peek over the edge, he actually descends into the pit.
It is a staggering display of rogue tactics and psychological control. He doesn't just sneak down, he perfectly disguises himself.
How do you even do that?
He utilizes his specialized skills to mimic the posture, the scent, and the chilling stillness of a corpse. He slips down into the excavation pit, surrounded by reanimating bodies, and simply plays dead.
Let's really think about what that requires. You have to put yourself in his shoes. You have to slow your breathing to almost nothing. You have to lie in the cold, ancient dirt next to rotting horrors, smelling the decay, and stay perfectly, rigidly still while they literally climb over you to get to your friends.
The self-control is immense.
If you flinch, if you gasp, you're instantly torn apart in the dark.
The psychological fortitude required to suppress the natural panic reflex in that situation is extraordinary. He lies there in the dark, allowing the undead to shuffle past him, completely undetected. And by doing so, he is able to assess the full scale of the threat from within the enemy's ranks.
He's gathering intel while being stepped on by zombies.
Precisely. He gathers critical reconnaissance about the layout of the pit and the number of remaining enemies.
That information gives the party exactly what they need to turn the tide. They aren't just swinging wildly into the dark anymore. They know what they're dealing with.
Indeed. Understanding the spatial limitations and the density of the undead allows them to coordinate their counterattack with deadly precision. This brings us to the turning point of the battle inside the tower. The undead are relentless, but they possess specific magical vulnerabilities.
They need to cleanse the space.
The party begins to systematically cleanse the tower using a concentrated combination of two powerful forces, purifying fire and divine radiance.
Imogen unleashes her sorcerer's fire, illuminating the cramped stone walls with brilliant roaring flames. The fire consumes the dry, rotting flesh of the zombies, turning the tight space into a furnace. And alongside her, Valindra calls upon the power of her deity, Talos.
A very interesting application of Talos' domain.
Now, Talos traditionally a god of storms, chaos, and destruction. But here, Valindra channels that raw, divine power as a radiant, searing light that burns away the necrotic energy animating the corpses.
It is a perfect, devastating synthesis of arcane and divine power. How these magics interact is fascinating. The arcane fire destroys the physical forms, the muscle, the bone, the physical vector of the threat. Meanwhile, the radiant divine energy operates on a metaphysical level. It severs the dark necrotic magic that is puppeteering the remains.
It cuts the strings.
The battle is incredibly fierce, and they take heavy hits, but the concentrated application of these forces eventually overwhelms the undead. The last of the horrors collapses, falling back into the pit, lifeless once more.
And as the final zombie crumbles into ash and bone, a heavy, ringing silence falls over the tower. The air is thick, and the sensory details recorded here are unforgettable. The smell is described as the acrid stench of burnt, rotting flesh, mixed with the sharp, ozone-like mineral scent of scorched, ancient rock.
A terrible combination.
That smell is going to haunt the stones of Old Owl well until the morning. But amidst that awful, suffocating smell, there is a sudden, palpable sense of relief.
Yes, because as the battle within concludes, they notice a distinct shift in the atmosphere outside the thick stone walls. The oppressive, freezing presence of Cryovain begins to dissipate. The violent howling of the wind dies down. The temperature slowly begins to normalize.
It's leaving.
The dragon, perhaps frustrated by the magically barred doors, or simply calculating that the energy required to dig them out of a stone fortress outweighs the caloric benefit of eating them, abandons the hunt. The shadow of the beast of winter fades into the distance.
They made it. They survived being sandwiched between an ancient white dragon and a horde of zombies. You can almost hear the collective, exhausted exhale of the party. They slide down the walls, battered, bruised, and exhausted beyond measure.
Hard-won victory.
But as the adrenaline finally, truly recedes, curiosity takes over. They are inside a historically significant ruin, and the immediate threat has passed. It's time to investigate their surroundings.
The quiet aftermath provides an opportunity to explore the tower's interior more thoroughly. As they sift through the debris, the ash, and the ancient dust, they make a startling discovery. Hidden away within the rubble is a strange, magical bag.
A bag of holding, maybe? Or something similar?
And within that bag, they find a letter. The contents of this letter are deeply concerning as it shifts their entire understanding of their situation. It reveals they are not just dealing with random monster attacks in the wilderness, they are being actively, strategically hunted.
The letter is signed by someone named Glassstaff. Now, if you have been following the broader political movements in the region, that name should set off massive alarm bells. Glassstaff is the alias of Iarno Albrecht, a former scholar and leader from Neverwinter who went rogue. The letter explicitly details that the party is a target.
We must unpack the implications of this letter carefully because it connects the immediate physical danger of the Red Brands to the overarching shadowy mystery of the entire region. Glassstaff does not operate independently.
He has a boss.
The Red Brands are not just a disorganized gang of street thugs, they are a mercenary syndicate. And Glassstaff is a subordinate, taking directives from a much more dangerous, highly enigmatic figure known only as the Black Spider.
The Black Spider.
Yeah.
The puppet master pulling the strings across the Sword Coast. And what does the Black Spider want? Why target this specific group of exhausted adventurers? It all comes back to ancient relics.
No.
Power. Which brings us right back to the puzzle box Gundren Rockseeker had, and the legendary Forge of Spells.
Exactly. Let's remind ourselves of the historical stakes here, because this is why the region is descending into chaos. The Forge of Spells is not merely a blacksmith's hearth. It is a legendary, currently dormant conduit of immense magical power.
A relic of a bygone era.
In centuries past, during the era of the Phandelver Pact, it was used by a grand, unprecedented alliance of dwarves and gnomes to imbue their weapons and extraordinary mechanical inventions with permanent, powerful enchantments. The knowledge of its location was lost to time and tragedy, but it seems the Black Spider is incredibly close to finding it.
And Glassstaff, with his gang of Red Brand mercenaries, are just pawns in this dark race to claim the forge. The letter proves that the Black Spider knows the party is involved. The Spider knows they have connections to Gundren, knows they're investigating the region, and considers them a threat that needs to be permanently eliminated.
It escalates the situation dramatically.
The paranoia sets in heavily here. They aren't just surviving the harsh wilderness anymore, they are surviving a coordinated, well-funded assassination plot.
And this plot is unfolding in a region that is deeply steeped in forgotten magic. Which brings us to the tower itself. While digesting the revelations of the letter, the party also examines the central feature of the ruins, the old owl well itself. It is an impossibly deep shaft delving into the earth.
It's not just a hole in the ground.
It is crucial to understand the history here. This is not a simple water source dug by local farmers. It is a remnant of the ancient Netherese Empire.
The Netherese. Now that is a name that commands respect and fear. For those who might not know, the Netherese represent the absolute pinnacle of human magical achievement. We are talking about flying cities, magic that could rival the gods before their sheer hubris literally brought those floating cities crashing down into the earth.
Precisely. The magic of the Netherese was so potent, so woven into the fabric of reality, that even millennia after their fall, it still pulses deep below the earth here. The well acts as a conduit to that residual energy. It is like magical radiation.
Magical radiation, I like that.
And locations saturated with such ancient raw magic often have profound, unpredictable effects on those who are sensitive to it. They act as thin places in reality, where the boundaries between the past, the future, and the divine can bleed through into the present.
Which perfectly explains what happens next, and why it happens here, of all places. The residual magic of the well reaches out to them. It grants visions. These aren't just stress-induced dreams or hallucinations. They are prophetic glimpses fueled by the ancient power of the site, interacting with their own magical signatures. Valindra, the cleric of Talos, is the first to experience it.
Valindra's vision is terrifying in its sheer cosmic scope. She is granted a glimpse of massive, raging storms, churning oceans swallowing the land, and fire falling from the sky. This is a direct, unfiltered connection to her deity, Talos, the Storm Lord.
It's intense.
It signifies a brewing elemental war, a conflict of cosmic proportions that threatens to spill over into the mortal realm. It reinforces the idea that the forces at play in this region are far larger and far more destructive than a local bandit problem or a lost dwarven mine.
It's apocalyptic imagery. It's the kind of vision that makes you feel incredibly small. But while Valindra sees the cosmic scale of the coming destruction, Imogen's vision is deeply grounded in the immediate political reality of the Sword Coast.
It provides clarity.
Imogen sees a vision of orcs fleeing in terror, abandoning their strongholds in the mountains. And she sees the Red Brands moving in the shadows, taking advantage of the chaos.
Imogen's vision provides the crucial piece of the puzzle the party has been missing since they arrived in the region. It is the grand aha moment of the night, where observation meets deduction. When they piece her vision of the fleeing orcs together with their terrifying encounter with the White Dragon earlier that night, everything clicks into place regarding their original contract to deal with the orcs at Wyvern Tor.
Yes, this is the moment where the scope of the problem snaps into focus. They realize that the orcs aren't just randomly raiding caravans or moving for political reasons. The orcs are running for their lives.
Was driven away by a superior force.
Cryovain, the beast of winter, is the reason they were driven away from Wyvern Tor. The dragon has claimed that mountain peak as its new territory.
This changes their entire understanding of the threat level. Cryovain is not just a monster they happen to stumble across in the dark, it is an apex predator whose mere presence is causing a massive, dangerous migration across the entire frontier.
It's an ecological disaster with scales and frost breath.
The displacement of the orcs into civilized lands is a direct result of the dragon's territorial dominance. Cryovain is fundamentally altering the geopolitical and ecological landscape of the region.
The orcs are pushing into farming communities and trade routes because the dragon literally took their home. It makes the dragon the root cause of the widespread chaos, not just a symptom of it. Armed with this incredible, terrifying realization, the dawn finally breaks over the ruined tower of Old Owlwell.
The light of day brings a stark clarity, but also highlights the grim reality of their situation. The party gathers their belongings, their injuries, and their new knowledge, and prepares to leave the burnt, frozen ruins of Old Owlwell behind. They have survived the night, which is a testament to their resilience, but the world outside those thick stone doors is more dangerous than ever.
Knowing what they know now, about Cryovain's territorial dominance. They make a very wise tactical decision. They look at their map, they look at the towering peaks of Wyvern Tor in the distance, and they say, absolutely not. They decide to bypass Wyvern Tor completely.
The only logical choice.
Hiking into a mountain to fight an ancient white dragon in its newly claimed lair, especially after the night they just had, is a tantamount to suicide.
A remarkably sound decision. Knowing when to retreat is as important as knowing how to fight. Their path must lead elsewhere for now. They set a new course, heading first toward the Shrine of Savras, a location deeply steeped in divination magic that might offer further clarity, and eventually toward Butterskull Ranch.
To deal with unfinished business.
Their goal there is to help Valindra retrieve her stolen necklace, a deeply personal quest that grounds them amidst the larger swirling chaos of dragons and ancient forges.
But we have to make it crystal clear to you, listening right now. The stakes have never been higher for this group. They are walking a razor's edge. Something massive, something truly world-altering is unfolding around the dormant power of the Forge of Spells. The Black Spider's Red Brand Syndicate is actively hunting them, and over every single step they take, the icy, expanding shadow of Cryovain looms.
The frontier is rapidly changing, destabilized by the convergence of these massive forces. The party is caught in the crossfire of ancient Netherese magic, divine elemental conflict, and draconic wrath. Before we conclude our analysis of this night, I want to leave you with a final lingering thought to mull over, drawn from the ancient lore of this specific region.
I love when we dig into the obscure lore. Lay it on us.
Within the ruins they explored, and in the historical texts regarding the area, there are references to the sacred bell of Conyberry, a relic of the town that was destroyed long ago. The legend surrounding this bell states that striking it rings not for the present, but for what is yet to come. It is a herald of the future. I want you to connect that concept to Agatha's prophecy of the Beast of Winter.
I think I see where you're going with this.
If the bell rings for what is yet to come, what exactly is Cryovain heralding for the Sword Coast? Is the White Dragon simply a hungry predator claiming territory? Or is it the first omen of a much larger catastrophic storm? A harbinger of an unnatural, endless winter that will consume the entire region.
That thought is terrifying. Is Cryovain just the symptom of a much worse disease? It changes the entire perspective of their journey. I just have to sit back and marvel at the sheer resilience of this party. I mean, they were literally sandwiched between a house-sized white dragon breathing absolute zero ice and a pit vomiting up ancient necrotic horrors. They were physically and magically depleted, and yet they walked out alive. It's a profound testament to their quick thinking, their tactical adaptability, and their deep trust in each other.
Their survival is commendable indeed. They have proven they can withstand the immediate pressure. But we must remember that Cryovain's shadow is not receding. It is rapidly spreading across the frontier. The ecosystem is fracturing, the orcs are displacing the local populations, and the dark race for the Forge of Spells is accelerating. The nights ahead for this party will only grow colder, darker, and more dangerous.
And we will be right here to analyze every frostbitten step of their journey, decoding the magic and the history as they fight to survive. Thank you for listening. Until next Thursday, may the scales always tip in your favor.